Hello and welcome to the League One Lowdown here on the Debt Network. My name is Sam, and as always, I'm joined by my Lincolnshire colleague, Mr. Callum Davis. How are you, Callum?
Hi Sam, yeah, I'm not too shabby, not too shabby. I've had worse Easter weekends. I finally got to go and watch a game of football, which was quite nice as well.
You were at Lincoln United, weren't you?
Yeah, Lincoln United who won the title down in like step 5 of non-league. Obviously, people who know what my normal job is means that I don't normally get to go out and watch the football matches, other than I hear them in my headphones, which is a lot of fun. But I actually got to watch a game of football, so reminding myself what that was like.
What a football game actually looks like. It's not just played behind a TV screen.
No, it exists. These people actually play football.
Yeah, so this week's show, a little bit different. Obviously, we've had the bumper Easter weekend with 2 match day fixtures. So me and Callum are going to go through all 24 sides, focusing mainly on the teams that have had something to play for, mainly the teams at the top of the league and the bottom of the league. And if you do like our content, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. We are perilously close now to 1,000 subscribers. So if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, it is greatly appreciated by all of us. So before we get cracking into anything, Callum, it's our favourite time of the show, the Predictions League. Now, you messaged on Friday thinking you'd done, well, at 65 minutes, you were doing rather well. You had around 10 points, we think it was. You had 3 correct scores at one point, with Barnsley being a correct score, because you had Barnsley to win. You had Wigan, I think it was a correct score, and there was one other game you had a correct score. All of them didn't happen by 90 minutes.
No.
And you ended up with 1 point on Friday. It's the Dunce Award, I've now nicknamed it, because that's the worst performance of the season at a critical time for you. I ended up with 7 points on Friday, which actually put me into the lead ahead of Monday. But you recovered well, to be fair, with 8 points on the Monday, which is still not extravagant. But at this point in the season, like we've mentioned a couple of times, we don't know what teams, like the middle of the table teams, we don't know pressure's off. We don't know how they're going to play. And I got 6 points. So after 44 match days and predictions, I think we've missed about 1 week. We're level on points going into the final 2 games, 253 points apiece with 2 games to go. You literally couldn't script this, or in Martin Tyler's words, you couldn't write this.
It does feel so scripted, doesn't it? But like we honestly have no idea. Like, this is, people will call match fixing, but it really isn't. It just, I guess we're both either equally as good or equally as bad at predicting League One games, in my case anyway.
Yeah, it's been a really, really strange season. We haven't even had to do an FIA or good old-fashioned double points on the final week to make it interesting. No, it's just going to be interesting.
We need to. No, we don't need to at all.
I mean, the Orient Club shop is calling, and we're selling out of shirts rather quickly. I mean, the Lincoln City shop, I can't imagine them selling out, being in mid-table at the moment.
They're all right. They've got a few nice shirts, a few nice ones, but we'll
probably go with I'll probably go with your away one if I had to buy one, to be honest.
Well, we're giving it away, aren't we? So there we go.
Yes.
Make sure you subscribe to that. Make sure you subscribe so we can contact you. And if you'd like to win a Lincoln City shirt, maybe one of those retro designs or something, because they go quite well. If you're not a fan of a specific club, you might go for a retro design or something. So
that's a good idea. Yeah, so we're going to get cracking then. We've got a lot to get through. So the first club is Barnsley. They obviously had 2 fixtures over the Easter break. First one was Orient. They were 3-1 up after about 62 minutes, I think it was. And I've got head in hands going, what the hell is going on? And a mad 6 minutes, Orient went on to win 4-3, which I did think was coming, but we had a lot of chances. But for Barnsley, Conor Hourihane obviously appointed as the new manager just before the Orient game. If it's anything like his playing days, I did see glimpses of what a Conor Hourihane team could look like, in terms of they are very front-footed. They obviously played Peterborough as well, and they drew 1-1. They were very front-footed. Defensively, they were all over the place, but that's because they're playing on the halfway line and they don't have the pace to get back. Quite frankly, you're playing Mark Roberts and Paddy McCarthy at centre-half. They're not going to be able to run back. But I do believe if they keep Adam Phillips, they keep Luke O'Connell, and they keep Keeler Dunn, they will be a threat next season. They probably need another striker as well.
It's interesting. They've got some of the players that you'd think would make a playoff chase inside, but they just haven't put it together at all. Conor Hourihane is still a really, really weird appointment to me. Like, I always think it's weird when a player like that gets their first job at a League One level. I mean, they've got to get their first job somewhere, so I suppose it's not a huge shock. But Yes, certainly not the appointment I would have made for Barnsley if I'm trying to challenge for promotion next year. But yeah, fairly average season for them.
Yeah, very. If you're going off the half-time, the new appointed half-time table for this week, the first half of games, Barnsley will be second. Games ended at half-time, which is rather surprising.
Yeah, it's that they've got no determination to see it through to the end of the games, have they?
No, so one win in 10 for Barnsley, and it looks like they're just battling to finish in the top half with 2 games to go. They're 3 points clear of Rotherham. It looks like they will finish 12th. So that's Barnsley done. Moving on to Birmingham City, a draw against Crawley 0-0. They'll probably all out on the lash during that week, to be honest. So I don't think they're going to care about drawing that 0-0. Another clean sheet at home. And then they played Burton Albion, and they won that 2-1, which could have been a sticky game for them away from home. But to win again, they're 4 points off now, I think it is. 5 points off getting the record points with 4 games to go for them because they've got 2 games in hand. They should realistically get that now.
Yeah, it does feel really weird though that they've still got 4 games in hand while everyone else has mainly got 2 games. So, but such as their success been in a variety of competitions this year that they've had to almost jam pack them in. I know they're in midweek action, aren't they? I think they're playing on Thursday. So I'll look forward to that game in a special episode with Gab Sutton, who's joining me. We're recording it tomorrow, but it will be released for you on Thursday. So if you've got any questions for him as well, mention those in the comments of this, wherever you're listening, wherever you're watching us on YouTube as well, and we'll be sure to put them to Gab. But yeah, for Birmingham, Burton could have been a sticky game. They came through that just about. And yeah, Crawley, again, it's kind of given Crawley hope. We'll come on to them in a minute. But I suppose there isn't really a lot to talk about with Birmingham. We've said it all this season. A superb side.
Yep, 100%. Moving on to Blackpool, they had slim chances, I think it's fair to say, of the playoffs after a defeat just before the Easter period. They won their first game in the Easter period, beating Stevenage 3-1, which again, as we know, can be a tricky game. Then they lost 2-1 at home to Wrexham, which has kind of all but ended their playoff hunt, I suppose. They're 9 points off with 3 games to go. So barring any miracles, I think it's going to be just outside the playoffs for Blackpool. I think Steve Bruce has done a pretty decent job, and he's got good foundations for next season. They probably and most definitely need to get Niall Ennis in, though. He's been a revelation since he's joined.
He's done all right, hasn't he, Steve Bruce, in terms of, like, I don't want to say like stabilizing the squad. We saw how up and down they were. It's been a very up and down season. You hate to think about what could have been for them, really, if they'd have just been a bit more stable at the start of the year and got a few more draws. Dare I suggest for Blackpool, having already got the most amount of draws in the league. But just turn a couple of them into wins and whatnot would have really helped. Obviously, defeat to Wrexham, not ideal, but a solid win over Stevenage. More goals in that game than I would have thought. But again, Blackpool, not a huge amount to discuss. They could still technically get playoffs, but it's not going to happen.
No, barring any miracles, I think they are set for probably a 10th place finish. A team that's probably missed out again on the playoffs is Bolton Wanderers, which, after the appointment of Steven Schumacher, I did think that a turn of momentum would happen, especially the way they started under him. But that was, 7 defeats in their last 10 games has kind of stopped any sort of run for the playoffs. They're 6 points off with 2 games to go, so it is possible, but they need like a 23-goal swing between them and Hope Orient and Reading both lose both of their games, which, let's be fair, is extremely unlikely, which, on the face of it, I'd quite like to hear from Bolton fans on Steven Schumacher. I know he's not had a transfer window, but 7 defeats in 10 is rather alarming, regardless of the squad that Bolton have. That's extremely disappointing.
I mean, when your goalkeeper's pulling a 4.7 on FOTMOB, you shouldn't be too excited about the end result. I mean, the game against Lincoln was really interesting, actually. Obviously, listening to this and watching the highlights, it was really interesting. Obviously, Lincoln going 2-0 up, and Bolton just didn't seem to have anything at all. They were completely useless, if I'm honest. They were terrible, and their fans will admit that as well. The fans were on their back completely. But then they get this goal out of nowhere through Matete. And then all of a sudden they start playing like a side that are chasing the playoffs, playing really, really well with a lot of threat. And as a Lincoln fan, you're thinking this is only going one way. I've read this script so many times. Lincoln they'll go in at level at half time and then Bolton will walk through. That's what will happen. But then they just didn't come out again for the second half. And it's kind of what I've said about Huddersfield as well. This idea that this club is too big for League One. This idea that because we've got a former Premier League stadium, this idea that because we've got a modern stadium in aspects as well, that we shouldn't be in the depths of the third tier of English football. And again, it doesn't work like that. I mean, everyone has seen that Rico Hackett free kick. For me, again, that sums the whole season. It's this idea of like they've kind of set out and they've gone like, oh, we know how this will work. We know where this ball will go. We know how they'll play this, and we're good enough to defend this and go forward and whatnot. And all it takes is someone to come up with something slightly clever, and it's completely ruined them. It's completely decimated their season. I know it's a kind of convoluted metaphor, but Bolton really frustrate me. It's very similar to Huddersfield. They frustrate me. They've got and it's not like I don't want these teams to succeed. Obviously, Lincoln, I want to win the league and go invincible and everything. But I don't hate Bolton. I don't hate Huddersfield. So all of this is just coming from a point of confusion. And I don't know where it's gone wrong for Bolton. Of course, let us know what you think about Steven Schumacher. And I don't think he's made a huge world of difference, if I'm honest. I don't think he's done a huge amount.
No, you get the new manager bounce, which they had, but it's just gone. I think it's got worse, to be honest. They've not really changed their style of play. I still think they lack a proper number 9, regardless of how many goals they've actually scored this season. They obviously lost Dion Charles, who wasn't having the best of seasons, and has gone to Huddersfield and done absolutely nothing. But you've got Aaron Collins and McAtee, who I call, they're probably called second strikers, but they probably can't play with each other. They've got Victor Adeboyejo, but he's been so off it this season. I think he's only scored like 3 goals. So I think the big one for Bolton this summer is to get a proper League One. This sounds really naive. A really old-fashioned number 9 who can just actually get you 20, like a mid 2010s Jordan Rhodes is what they're after.
Yeah. You want a James Collins. You want a James Collins. Like Lincoln have got James Collins.
It's an excellent point. Because James Collins has proven at this level, and it's a pretty shrewd signing from Lincoln City to go and get him, because it doesn't really fit your recruitment strategy, but he scores goals.
Yeah. What it points for Bolton is something endemic. It doesn't point to a manager thing. It's a player culture, a backroom staff culture that has taken hold at that club. You worry if it's also taken hold at Huddersfield Town. We'll talk about them in a minute. Similar thing I imagine is happening at Barnsley and Rotherham United. These clubs that feel like they deserve a spot at the top of League One to be battling for playoffs. And the likes of Wrexham, the likes of Stockport, the likes of Leyton Orient, and even Reading to an extent have come in and shown them how it's done. And that's what they need to learn. They need to learn that you have to fight for literally everything in this league. It's, for as boring as it's been in parts this year, League One, it's been a really tough league this year, and certain sides have been found out.
Yeah, 100%. Moving on to a team that have been a bit more found out, I think, recently, is fair to say, is Burton Albion. Just the 3 wins, in their last 10 now over the Easter break. They drew 0-0 away at Exeter, which was probably a game they really needed the 3 points in, and a 2-1 loss to Birmingham, which is nothing to be scrabbled about. They've got Cambridge at home this Saturday, which is a humongous game for them. Cambridge are near enough down now with 5 points off with 2 to play. But they've also got their game in hand against Wigan, who we'll get onto a bit later, but under Ryan Lowe have been pretty solid. So 2 really, really big home games for Burton Albion. And home form has not been their forte this year, just the 5 wins at home. But they have won 2 of their last 3 at home. They've already probably fairly lucky that Bristol Rovers have forgotten how to actually kick a football at the moment.
Yeah, I'm going to defend that 0-0 to Exeter. I mean, Exeter, we know, have kind of been all right towards it. They're not been as good as we kind of expected them to be, given how they were towards the end of last season. But it's a long trip down the A38, which is a horrible road, having driven it before. Horrible way to get to the south of the country. Exeter, not a very fun place to go to at all. in terms of the drive. I'm sure it's a lovely place. Never been, but never been. I'm sure it's a lovely place, but it's still a long way to get there. So not the easiest of away days. And then Birmingham, you've just got to kind of say that's never going to be anything really. You can't really predict to get anything from that one. Again, for me, it's all about that game in hand, and I think it's Wigan, isn't it? Their game in hand.
Yeah.
For me, if they win that, I see 47 being the mark this year. I kind of think 47 is the mark. I can't see. I mean, Crawley can't get to 47. Bristol Rovers, I can't see getting a win and a point in their last 2 games. So if Burton get 1 win, I almost think 1 win is enough for them. Maybe even 46 points is enough for them this year in their remaining 2 games. And I reckon they probably could get that next time out against Cambridge.
Yeah, it's a good point you make on the 47, but it's which one feels really low, doesn't it? We're usually talking about. It
feels really low this year.
Yeah, we usually talk about the 50-point mark, aren't we? But this year it seems to be around.
You look at the national league. I know it's a different league, but I know that the points they're talking about to stay up this year in that league is around the 52-point mark, which I suppose shows that how I mean I've been asked that we got asked this on one of the live streams about how money has influenced League One this year. And it shows how spread. We're looking at a record points total for Birmingham. And a record, well, maybe not a record low in terms of staying up, but quite a low bar in terms of staying up. Yeah. So for Burton, I reckon they'll get that against Cambridge, and then a point probably against Wigan. Charlton will be resting their players ahead of the playoffs, perhaps. So I reckon they'll survive. I know it looks perilous. They're on the same amount of points as Bristol Rovers, and obviously Crawley are close. So. But I think Burton have got it in them.
I like you mentioned that about Charlton because we're going to talk about them in a moment. Moving on to Bristol Rovers, obviously briefly mentioned it's a perilous, I think, situation for Bristol Rovers when you've won 2 of your last 10, you lose 7 of your last 10, and then draw a game, a pretty impressive draw, I must add, away at Wrexham, to be fair to them. But you go and lose at home to Stevenage, which is your bread and butter, and your home form's been pretty good this year. So not to even pick up a point, and I've seen the goal. It's just so bad. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just absolutely abysmal. There were chants at the manager, at the players not fit to wear the shirt. And they've got Reading at home and Blackpool away. I mean, Reading's away form is okay. 6 wins, 8 draws, 8 losses, but they're fighting for something as well as Bristol Rovers. So I think the nerves will be more on Bristol Rovers than Reading, because Reading are now outside the playoffs, so are probably the outsiders to get it. And then Blackpool have nothing to play for, but love a draw at home. So you could see Bristol Rovers maybe getting a point on the final day. But like you said, you could probably see Burton going to get 4 from their final 3.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the match momentum, which we use is quite healthy, isn't it? Quite useful.
Yeah.
Neither side had a foothold at all in this game. It looked very, very wishy-washy. Bristol Rovers had a good spell in the second half of the game. Bristol Rovers, they were dominant for most of the second half, which you'd expect from a Stevenage side sitting back defending the ball. They got that goal. It was typical Stevenage, wasn't it? We'll talk about that in a minute. But for Bristol Rovers, it's so disappointing, isn't it? You get yourself all hyped up for this huge game against Wrexham. You talk about all the people that will be watching it on the documentary that will come out at some point. You talk about all the people that will be watching, in the stadium. All eyes are on you, and they've performed. And then they go to their home. I know at one point I think we were talking about Bristol Rovers' home form being in the top 10.
Yeah, it was.
And that wasn't all that long ago, and now it's slid back down to 13th. That their away form is the worst. It is now officially the worst in the league now. And when you've got Blackpool away on the last day of the season, you do not want to be relying on an away game as the thing that keeps you up. So Bristol Rovers, it's one of them, isn't it? You feel for them. You very, very puzzled by a lot of the decisions they've made, if I'm honest. I don't understand a lot of the decisions they've made. Again, Bristol Rovers fans, please let us know. It's like I feel like the fans, when we're critical of teams, please remember, we're not doing it because we dislike your teams. We're doing it because we want to kind of understand what decisions are being made. I mean, to be fair, I think you also want to understand some of the decisions that are being made in terms of managerial appointments and stuff like that. But please try and explain what's gone on, because you've now got the third worst goal difference. Even Cambridge United have got a better goal difference. Only 2 teams have scored less than you this year. Only 2 teams have conceded. 3 teams have conceded more if you include Peterborough in that. Shrewsbury and Crawley Town are the only other 2 sides to have conceded more than yourself. It's really perplexing what's happened. And I mean, I say this all the time. It comes back to that Lincoln game. They lost 5-0 and their heads have dropped, and they kind of got their heads back up again for that draw against Wrexham. But the tail is very much between the legs, and I'm very confused.
It was kind of alarming when Josh Griffiths went back, because he had the most XG prevented in the league, and they had the most XG conceded in the league at the time he left. And since then, they've been terrible. And I think it just proves how good of a goalkeeper they had in Josh Griffiths before he went back to West Brom. Moving on to Cambridge United, their season is pretty much over after a defeat to Leyton Orient on the Monday, after a pretty impressive away performance against Huddersfield Town, who we're going to talk about in a bit. But I think Huddersfield Town are now destined for the drop. They've put up a good fight. Yeah, put up a good fight, to be fair to them, Cambridge. 2 defeats in their last 7, I think it is, with 3 draws and 2 wins. If they held out against Orient for the 3 points, then we'd have had a proper tasty relegation battle with Burton, Bristol Rovers, Crawley and Cambridge. But I think it's now a bridge too far for Cambridge. I think they will be playing League 2 football next season.
There was a screenshot you sent us at one point during the match where you had Burton on 43, Bristol Rovers 43, Cambridge 41, Crawley 40.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, okay, maybe we wrote this relegation off. I think I was getting worried that in the live stream we'd limited it to just a conversation between Burton and Bristol. Crawley is still very much in with a shout. Should Burton drop points, maybe not get a win against Cambridge United, then Crawley are in with a chance. We'll talk about them in a minute. But Cambridge United, really, really struggling for patchy form. What they do over the summer, I'm not sure. I'll leave that for 4th tier fever to discuss. It's not really for us to comment, I suppose. But they don't score many. They concede less than the teams around them.
Yeah.
But when you're only scoring 43 goals a season, that's less than a goal a game. You're asking for a bit of trouble, especially when your defence is as leaky as it is.
I think if they had Neil Harris the whole season, they'd have probably stayed up, in my opinion.
Maybe, yeah.
Or if they made that decision a bit earlier to get rid of Gary Monk and get Neil Harris in, you never know. They may have stayed up. But...
Yeah, I mean, we were calling for Gary Monk's head after 10 games, weren't we? And they just didn't.
They've been toying for the past couple of years, a bit like Burton have, to go down. So they're finally going down. Moving on to a team who, how do I put this, have made an extremely late charge to be considered for second place. They beat Northampton 2-1. They have absolutely smacked Wycombe, who only conceded 4 goals from open play under Mike Dodds. 4-0. And that is a statement if I've ever seen one. They're now 2 points off Wycombe, who are third. They're 4 points off Wrexham, who are second. This weekend is Wrexham versus Charlton. If Charlton go there and win, and Leyton Orient manage to get a point against Wycombe Wanderers, we will be going into the final day of the season with Wrexham on 86, Wycombe on 85, Charlton on 85. We all thought this was a 2-horse race for second place. But Charlton Athletic have come sneakily, won 5 of their last 6, 7 of their last 10, have lost 2 home games all season, and face Wrexham and Burton in their next 2, and could very easily get second place.
The fixtures are in their favour, aren't they? I mean, you have to beat one of your rivals in order to get it, I suppose. So, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. I think if they lose to Wrexham, obviously that's it. And Wrexham away is it's up there with the toughest games. In the league. Wrexham away, you go into a different country, technically in Wales. It's a long drive from London, I imagine, or train or whatever it is how they get
5
there.
hours, I think.
It's not the best in terms of like location, I suppose. So you got all the cameras, players react to that differently. But Charlton have been impressive. Charlton
Mm.
have been impressive, and their good form has been very, very impressive. Who'd have thought that the thing that could cost them was again Lincoln City, that 2-2 draw. I don't want to bring it back to the party poopers, but there you go. You'd have thought that Lincoln City would cost Charlton Athletic automatics. Might not have done. I don't know. It's a really, really outside bet. I mean, there's a story. I love my non-league, so I'll reference this again. There's a story of Sleaford Town in step 5 of non-league, who spent the whole year outside the relegation spots, only to go into it on the final day in the 87th minute and be relegated on goal difference. This season. And it could be the same for Charlton Athletic. We could be in a situation where results go their way and they get in, having been outside it the whole season, and then get in on goal difference. We could be in that situation, and that would be something to watch. It would be a great story for League One. I personally don't buy it. I personally don't think they'll do it. I think Wrexham away is probably a hurdle too far, and I think Burton have got a lot to fight on. I think they'll make it quite difficult in that game. I don't want to predict it, but in terms of their Easter, I don't think it could have gone much better.
No, 100%. I think if they get a point against Wrexham, I think they'll beat Burton, which will give them 86. They probably won't. I don't think they'll finish second, but there's a chance they get third. There's a chance they get third.
So if they have to beat Wrexham to be in with a chance, a point would make it impossible, I think. So
yeah, I think it's just Charlton's away
from the game of the weekend.
Yeah, Charlton's away form's just a bit patchy. Not patchy, but 10 wins, 4 draws, 8 defeats, scored 29, conceded 24. So the slim margin, shall we say, away from home compared to when they're at home. They've got a 20-goal swing immediately at home. So moving on to a team who are back in the hunt, which we didn't expect really to say, with a very fruitful Easter period, is Crawley Town. They got a 0-0 draw against Birmingham, which nobody expected. And then they got a 3-1 home win against Exeter City, who did go down to 10 men. Now, the thing that makes this interesting is Crawley Town's last 2 games. Northampton Town at home, who are now safe after smacking Shrewsbury. Final day of the season, they're away to Shrewsbury. There is a realistic scenario where they go and win their final 2 games and get 46. It may just have happened a little bit too late because them 3 defeats have come at completely the wrong time after their 2 successive wins. But there is a realistic chance they win both of these and give themselves a decent chance of survival. The only downside, again, is their goal difference. Much like Bristol Rovers, it's 14 worse than Burton's.
I mean, it's at times like this that you look back at points during the season about what you did, what could have changed it. That 97th minute penalty against Peterborough United, we thought at the moment that was it. We thought that was the goal that would relegate them. I think that with their goal difference, I still think Burton will get 3 points from their remaining 3 games. I think something about Burton Albion makes me think that that's what they'll do. And in that situation, Crawley Town are going to need a goal difference swing of 15 in their next 2 games. If they'd have not conceded that 97th minute penalty against Peterborough United, Crawley Town, I would probably say are favourites to be safe.
Yeah,
given that run in. But at the end of the day, that's football. That's what's happened. You can't really look back and just think, well, if, buts, and whatnots. So, which I think is actually an incredible title for this podcast. If, buts, and whatnots. There you go.
I'm now going to write that down.
But for Crawley Town, they've gone down fighting, and if they go down fighting, then that's credit to them. It's one of them. I mean, we'll move on to talk about Exeter next. They're a bit of a nothing team, aren't they? But a bit like Lincoln City, who we'll talk about in a minute, they could very much, they have played a role in what's going to happen, haven't they? With games against Crawley and Burton Albion, they've played their role in what's happening at the bottom of the league. Maybe not as good a form as we thought they would have, but they've tried.
Yeah, Exeter City threw the spanner in the works at the bottom end of the table, didn't they, with their draw against Burton and defeat against Crawley. They're pretty safe, aren't they? 16th place. Again, it's probably roughly where we all predicted them to be finished, in that region of 13th to 18th, I think is fair to say, where Exeter City not belong, but is where they should be based on budgets and everything like that. So I think it's another good season, even after a disappointing Easter period for Exeter City. I don't really have much else to say on them.
No, there's not a huge amount to say about them. There's also not a huge amount to say about Huddersfield Town, who are
No.
next. Back-to-back 2-1 defeats at home against Cambridge United. I mean, the less said about that, the better. And then a 2-1 defeat away at Stockport County, which again is on the face of it, a good result. But now they will be in League One next year. There is no other way of saying that. They will be in League One next year. And when you've just spent £3 million on a striker in Joe Taylor, over £500,000, I think it was on Lars Sorensen. I don't know how much they've spent on the other players that they've spent. Their wages are going to be high. We already know their agent fees are high and probably are likely to be high again next year. I wouldn't want to be part of the finance department at Huddersfield Town. They are going to have some sleepless nights, and I wouldn't want to be part of the playing staff or coaching staff at that club at all.
No,
it's one of them. We've colour coded them as something to talk about, but I don't really think if we could do a whole podcast on them.
They'll blame one man, Mr. Cartwright, who has now left the football club, which isn't the most surprising thing in the world. It's been a pretty dismal season, I think it's fair to say, for Huddersfield. I have said in the summer they didn't recruit well enough. They recruited well enough for the players they bought, but they didn't overhaul the squad enough. We've got a losing culture at that football club. You lose one game, you lose 2 games, you lose 3 games, then the whole place is negative, especially after the past couple of years. It needs a complete refresh, and Cartwright going, for Huddersfield fans' sake, is probably a step in the right direction.
100%.
Moving on to Leyton Orient, they do have something to play for, sitting in 6th place with their 4th win in a row, winning both their games over the Easter period. A rather fruitful affair against Barnsley, being 3-1 down to score 3 goals in 6 minutes to win 4-3. My heart couldn't take much more of that football game. And for the 4th time in a row, coming from behind to win a football match, they beat Cambridge on Easter Monday 2-1. A bit of a special goal, another special goal from Jamie Donnelly. He doesn't really seem to do tap-ins, just scores worldies. A bit of individual brilliance has won Orient the game. But this weekend they can't go 1 goal behind because they'll most likely lose. They've got Wycombe Wanderers at home, which is a big game for Wycombe and Orient. If Orient win, they are the early kickoff, so they give themselves a 3-point buffer ahead of the later game where Reading have to play Bristol Rovers away, which again is a big game for both sides. And then on the final day, Orient travel to Huddersfield, which you would expect them to win, I think it's fair to say. So it is crunch time. I'm absolutely pooing myself, but also very excited at the same time. I didn't expect us to be in this position. We had enough opportunities, and when we lost them 5 in a row, I thought we threw it. We then lost to Burton, and I thought we threw it, but we've had a stomping end to the season. It's a shame we drew with Wigan when a game I thought we deserved to win. But I think any Orient fan would have bitten your hand off to the season we've had.
I just hope you don't get promoted. If I'm honest, else we're gonna have to try and find a new. We're gonna have to try and find a new co-host for this show. So
I'll be promoted.
Please try and blow the playoffs. Being fair play. I mean, we all thought you were probably relegation candidates at one point
November,
this season. So it's been an incredible turnaround. Wycombe is obviously a tough game. They'll still be trying to get the automatic places and looking to bounce back after defeat last time out. Reading, we all know the situation there. We'll talk about them in a minute. So, very, very interesting. It's one of them. Sometimes you have to hold your hand up and just say fair play to Leyton Orient, who have done incredible things on not the biggest budget. Yeah,
my biggest concern is if Orient fans remember back to 14-15 when we lost the League One playoff final, terrible memories. We then got taken over. The following season, we got relegated.
Yeah.
We're in a playoff battle this year. It looks like the takeover's gone through. If you look on Company's House, there is the name David Glandler, I think it is, who's going to be taking over the football club. There is a Company's House thing for him based in New York. We're now going to be taken over ahead of a new season. The squad, we've got 14 players out of contract. We've got loan players to go back. And Welland's being linked with every single championship job that's available. So who knows what is going to happen? But it's an exciting time to be an Orient fan towards the end of the season. Moving on to a couple of clubs who don't have too much to play for, or if anything. Lincoln City have had their fair chances to say in the promotion hunt, beating Reading and Bolton. So thank you, Lincoln City. Michael Scabala, I love you. Callum, I'll pass that one to you because you know more about Lincoln.
I mean, James Collins is the best striker in the league. I mean, that is proven. I have the statistics to back it up as well. He's got the best goals per minute ratio of any striker in the league this season. better than Louis Barry at Stockport, better than Jay Stansfield, and we got him for free. So it goes to show that not everything is to do with a paycheck. Play the GIF. There you go. But no, seriously, very impressive result against Reading and Bolton. It's this new 4-2-3-1 that they're trialing out. All the players in it seem to just click. It seems to be a much simpler system as well. I hate 5 at the back. It really does my absolute head in. So yeah, fair play to Lincoln. Some good results. I mean, we can talk about Mansfield, Northampton, and Peterborough in this section as well. We can probably lump them all in together if we're honest.
Yeah,
Mansfield have had goals galore and actually got some negative results out of it. Drawing with Rotherham 3-3, and then losing to Reading 5-1. They've had an absolute mare there. So fair play to Mansfield, doing their best to try and get relegated. I don't think they're out of it either. Results could go against them as well. So they're not out of it completely. Northampton, again, fair play to them. They're actually 7 points above the drop. So maybe I underscored them. I thought they'd be 5 points. So fair play.
Kevin Nolan's done a superb job since he's gone in.
Yeah.
So fair props to Northampton, a 3rd successive season in League One for you lot.
And Peterborough doing their best to turn into prime Blackpool with back-to-back draws against Barnsley and Stockport County. They're so weird. I'm somewhat. Can we do a sociological test on Peterborough United to understand what has happened? They've gone from being bipolar to being riddled with anxiety or something this year because they're afraid to win or lose at this point.
Yeah.
I cannot put my finger on it at all.
They're just we've obviously mentioned. I know they won the cup, which I suppose if they finished 17th and won a trophy, in my opinion, that's a successful season because they've won a trophy. And football is about winning trophies. The goals have dried up a little bit, 64. So Orient, Wycombe, and Birmingham have now scored more than them. But they can't stop conceding. 74 goals is the 3rd worst in the league behind Crawley and Shrewsbury. That's where the big improvements are needed in the summer. I think Darren Ferguson will know that, and I do think we'll see Posh come back a lot stronger next year, to be honest.
Yeah, they're one to watch out for.
The big one is to keep Hector Cipriano at the football club, the captain, out of contract this summer, and Kwame Puku also out of contract, another big one. Birmingham City have been rumoured to be sniffing around that one.
I think if those two go, we've all been saying Peterborough wants to watch out for. If those two go, Peterborough wants to watch out for at the bottom of the league.
Yes,
regardless of what they do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, keep one. We know their recruitment's strong, but if you lose both, it's a big hole to fill.
100%.
Moving on to Reading, they're the team in 7th place after losing to Lincoln City 1-0. They dropped outside the playoff places, but then smacks Mansfield 5-1 in what is a big boost to their goal difference, which is now plus 11 and 9 off the O's. It's kind of needed though, because the goal difference, as we said, could be worth this extra point with Bristol Rovers and Barnsley to play. Barnsley being at home on the final day. We had some good news with Reading. Their deadline's been extended again to the 5th of May, but it looks like the terms of the sale with Rob Couhig, we believe, is they're going to be taken over at the football club, which is great news for all the Reading fans. And hopefully, it's the sign of better times for the football club, because on the pitch, they've been nothing but superb, I think, in adversity this season.
It's one of them that, no offense, Leyton Orient, I'd love them to get playoffs just for the story. Their story alone is better than Orient's this year. No offense, I just think it is. Reading, I've got nothing but admiration for them this year. They're 2 fixtures as well that they've got a favourable. You probably imagine them to get 6 from 6. In those 2 and end on 70, 78. So that puts the pressure very firmly on Leyton Orient. I have a lot of respect for Reading. On the takeover stuff, I hate it. I hate the fact that it's got this tar. I hate the fact that a deadline is seemingly not a deadline. That's the one thing. And I feel like such an idiot for saying this, and I feel quite like a bad person as well. That I think that there shouldn't have been I don't think there should have even been a single extension, because it gives other bad owners this impression that if they show this idea that progress is being made, then there'll be another extension. I don't like that idea. I think a deadline is a deadline, but aside from that, on the pitch, which I suppose what we mainly talk about here on League One Lowdown, they've been nothing short of incredible. You cannot fault them at all. We've said so many times they'll falter. They haven't. Fair play to them.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more with that. And I think if one of their players, like obviously we've mentioned Tyler Bindon, I personally think he should win Young Player of the Year. I think what he's done at Reading, he's obviously secured himself a big move to Nottingham Forest as well in the summer. I think in a way, this adversity off the pitch is going to make these young players stronger. You've obviously got the experience of someone like Lewis Wing in there, Harvey Nibbs, the quality. We've also got to remember they lost Sam Smith. 14 odd goals he got for Reading. They lost him in January. Me and you have both said openly, when is this Reading drop-off going to go? They lose Ruben Sayers, and you're thinking, when is it? They're going to drop off eventually. Noel Hunt's come in and continued the good work. So I don't have anything bad to say about Reading. I really don't.
No, there's nothing bad, nothing at all. One side that we probably could say a couple of bad things about is Rotherham. Again, they were on a good run of form, and at one point I was thinking, Christ, if Lincoln City finished below Rotherham this year, we have had a drop off in form.
Yeah.
Rotherham, a draw and a defeat, draw to Mansfield Town 3-3, a fun game that is, and then follow that up by just a 1-0 defeat to Wigan. It's not what Rotherham fans signed up for this year, is it at all? Talking about things that fans didn't sign up for this year in Shrewsbury, back-to-back defeats again. To Wigan and Northampton sums up their season. They're very pitiful this year. I mean, Michael Appleton is trying to play the Michael Appleton way with players that really can't play the Michael Appleton way at all, which probably sums up their season. Whether Appleton stays for next year, I'd be very interested. And obviously a lot of talk about what's happened off the pitch at Shrewsbury as well. Very frustrating. And again, to wrap up this kind of chunk of teams, we can probably chuck Stevenage and Wigan in this, break the alphabetical order. Stevenage, a defeat to Blackpool, 3-1. Like we said, probably more goals in that game than we expected. And then followed that up with the most typical Stevenage performance in a 1-0 win over Bristol Rovers. Very, very typical. Scored early on, held that for the remainder of the game. It's very Stevenage.
I have to give credit to Alex Ravel this season as well, winning 15 matches in League One with Stevenage. They're going again a third successive season in League One. Hopefully, this summer for his, because I know he's wanted to change the brand of football that Stevenage have. So hopefully, for his case, he can get the players he wants. I know he wants probably 2 quick wingers for either side, so it'll be interesting.
I've mentioned on several occasions that worries me. I don't know whether they'll stay up at all next year, but that's not what we're here to discuss. And Wigan, the final team, really, they don't have a lot to fight for this year. They're kind of coming into form at the time that it really doesn't matter. A 1-0 win over Rotherham, a 1-0 win over Shrewsbury, which, again, to be fair, is not a huge amount to write home about, but you have to get the job done. Probably it is a bit too late. I mean, mathematically possible for them to get a top-half finish. If you'd have said that Wigan Athletic could finish above Barnsley this year, I'd have laughed at you. But there you go. They haven't. They could do. They might not do, but they could do. And that's probably something to laugh about.
I think Ryan Lowe, they probably couldn't have got a better appointment, as my earphone has been caught around my racing wheel. So I'm now completely elongated. But I think Ryan Lowe has obviously gone in. He's doing Ryan Lowe things, isn't he? 3 draws, 2 wins from their last 5. They don't concede many goals. They've only conceded 39 all season. The biggest problem at Wigan Athletic Football Club this season has been scoring goals. Still the lowest scorers in the league, 37. Still lower than Shrewsbury. But I think with the summer under Ryan Lowe, they could be one to watch next season. I'm going to say it early.
If only they had a striker.
Yes.
I heard James Collins was available during the during the January transfer window.
We were interested as well in him.
I quite like him. He's not too shabby, is he? But then it leaves us with 3 teams who have got quite a bit to fight for this year.
Yes, starting with Stockport County, as I finally untangle my earphones and don't look like a complete idiot. Stockport County with a draw against Peterborough and a home win against Huddersfield. It's a shame they did draw with Peterborough, because you give Stockport that win, they're on 83, and then they have the chance to get second place. I don't think they're going to get second. I think it's a choice between, they could finish third, realistically. Orient go and beat Wycombe. They could get third place. So 3rd, 4th, or 5th for Stockport. How Dave Challoner is a name that's not been mentioned for Manager of the Year is a disgrace, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I know Wellens is in there, which is fair. Parkinson, fair. Davis, they're all fair, names to be put forward, but nobody's mentioned Dave Challoner. He's never ever finished outside a playoff place in all his managerial career in over 500 games. Please, somebody put respect on that man's name.
He's not bad, is he? He's not bad at all. Again, it's one of them. If they'd have got that point against Peterborough, if they got 3 points, against Peterborough, you probably think they're odds on. The thing that works the thing that works both for them and against them is their remaining fixtures. Wycombe on the last day of the season, if that's perfect, isn't it? Winner takes second place. That could have been if things had played out slightly differently. Unfortunately for them, they've got serial party poopers Lincoln City next, which as Reading, Bolton, Huddersfield, and quite a lot of the teams around that part of the league have found out, doesn't end well. Especially when if I mention James Collins, take a shot every time I've mentioned that. He's quite good at the minute.
You've also got Wrexham final day.
Yeah, we have. So it's brilliant. I love being a Lincoln fan. We just laugh at teams when we beat them at this point. But fair play. Stockport County, a team that we kind of thought would be fighting for playoffs, kind of in and around it. But I don't think any of us really predicted them to finish 4th or 5th. So fair play for them. Again, they're not a huge amount else to discuss about them. I think they'll finish 5th, which probably doesn't do justice for how good their season has been and how good they have looked at times this year. Bit of inconsistency towards the start of the season. They'll probably look back on and say, that's cost us. I remember Lincoln beat them earlier this year as well, I believe. Again, that's probably what's cost them. But I think it's always so easy to look at games and just go, well, why did we lose to that team in 18th place and whatnot? So it's very easy to talk retrospectively. But then that leaves us with Wrexham and Wycombe, who were... They're doing battle for the biggest W of promotion.
Yes, and Wycombe being tonked by Charlton isn't going to help their promotion bid. 41 goals now conceded for Wycombe. And I think the alarming thing is the form of Richard Kone since Mike Dodds has come in. Only 2 goals since Mike Dodds entered at Adams Park. Obviously, defensively, they looked pretty solid before they played Charlton and conceded 4 goals. And Wycombe have an away trip to Leyton Orient and a home trip to Stockport County, as you've mentioned. For Wrexham, they got a draw against Bristol Rovers, which we all thought, oh no, the bottle is beginning, and then they turn up against Blackpool and win 2-1. Phil Parkinson has called for a raucous atmosphere, I think it was, this weekend against Charlton at home. So they've both got really difficult games. They've both got to play a team that is chasing them, i.e. Wrexham have Charlton, Wycombe have Stockport. And then obviously you've mentioned that Lincoln City party poopers head to the racecourse, or the Stock Ray Case ground, I think it's called, on the final day. So we've got some entertainment finally in our league, because it's been a pretty two-team battle, I think, for every position. Yeah, and now we've got 4 teams going for second, 2 teams for 6th, and 3 teams for survival. So it's all going to get rather tasty very quickly.
I think the phrase is finally a bit of needle in the air, a bit of angst, a bit of anger, and I'm looking forward to it. This is what we wanted. This is what we needed. I'm hoping that it could be one of them where Wrexham win this weekend and Wycombe Wanderers don't, and then that's it. Wrexham have got automatic promotions. It could be decided this weekend. I really hope that's not. I really hope that's not the case, because we deserve something. If I'm honest,
what we need is Charlton to go and beat Wrexham. We need Orient to go and beat Wycombe, and we need Stockport to win as well. So 84, 85, 84, 86 going into the final day. That is what we want. So if that can happen, we may get a lot of views next week.
It'd be a lot of fun. And do you know what? I'm down for that. And obviously, I hope you're all excited for the end of the season. If you are, make sure you like and subscribe and follow us on the podcast. We've got so much planned for the end of the season, our end of season awards, everything that we've got planned coming up over summer. We'll be looking ahead to next season before you even know it. We've obviously got that special interview with Gab Sutton. Get your questions in, whether that's in the comments here or on social media as well. So many different bits and bobs to come on the League One Lowdown. You don't want to miss any of it.
Yeah, and if you want to head over to our Twitter at League One Lowdown, that is where the Predictions League scores for this weekend will go on there. Obviously, this is a review episode, so we haven't had time to do our predictions for the weekend, so they will go out on Twitter at the weekend. So if you want to keep up to date with the Predictions League and the battle for the opposition shirt, make sure you head over there. So thank you everyone for listening. Make sure you subscribe. Like Callum said, get your comments in for Gab Sutton in the comments. And thank you everyone for listening. So hopefully see you next time.